In this next video, we're going to talk about how to reconcile transfers. This is used for multiple stores that use the in-transit transfers, where you transfer something out of store 1, it puts it into an in-transit bucket, and store 2, for example, has to receive that transfer. It does not go directly into store 2's inventory until store 2 receives it. The reason you would have to reconcile transfers is if store 1 had sent something to store 2, but store 2 never received it. And vice versa, if store 1 did not send something to store 2, but store 2 received it, then we would need to reconcile that transfer as well. Reconciling transfers will be administered from the top level organization. This will have someone that has authority to do this feature. And it should be done on a daily basis to keep on top of it. So you would click on the Inventory tab up at the top, Stock Transfer, and Reconcile Transfers. This will bring you into the Reconcile Transfers screen. You have two tabs, the Transfer Order Header and the Transfer Order Detail. You can type in the Transfer Order Header number to the right of Transfer Order, or look it up by clicking on the magnifying glass icon. On the Transfer Order Header, you have the Transfer Order Number, from store and to store, transfer date and receive date, if there was an alert message, any comments, or any receiving comments. We're going to go ahead and look up the transfer. You can look it up by transfer order number, from and to. You could check just the past due transfers, or check just partially received transfers, or just over received transfers. The include closed transfer orders is already checked. So once you find the transfer order that you want to select and reconcile, click on Select. And all that information will come up on the screen with the transfer order number, what store it's from, what store it's to, the transfer date and receive date, and all the other information. We're going to click on Transfer Order Detail, and that's going to list the individual items from this transfer order that need to be reconciled. It's by SKU and it's by size. In this example, we have an M8038T, 9.5D. Store 1 says that it did not transfer this 9.5D, but store 2 received it. The second example is the MT811AT, 8.5D, where store 1 says that it did transfer it, but store 2 did not receive it. In this example, we're going to choose the 8.5D. where store 1 says that they transferred it, but store 2 did not receive it. So we're going to click on Reconcile. There's three different ways that you can reconcile. Either increase received, that it's a receiving error, reduce transferred, that it's a shipping error, or reduce transferred shrinkage in this example. If we said it was a receiving error, it means that store 2 should have received it and they didn't. So we want to put it in store 2's inventory. So it would set the received quantity to 1, decrease store 2's in transit by 1, and increase store 2's on hand by 1 to show that they actually did receive it if we clicked on that. Or we have a shipping error. So store 1 said that they transferred it, but they really didn't. So we would click on Reduce Transferred Shipping Error if it was a shipping error, and it would set transferred quantity to 0, decrease store 2's in transit by 1, and increase store 1's on hand by 1. So it would put it back into store 1's inventory, since they really didn't transfer it. And the last one here is Reduce Transferred for Shrinkage. So if store 1 really did transfer it, okay, what happened to it? Shrinkage, shortage, if someone stole it, for example. Set the transferred quantity to 0, decrease store 2's in transit by 1, it would increase store 1's on hand by 1, and then shrink store 1's on hand by 1 to show it as a shrinkage. In this example, I'm going to say that it was a receiving error. So it was the receiving's error that they should have received it and they didn't. So we're going to increase store 2's on hand by doing this. And we're going to click on the Reconcile button. And the next example, we have the opposite, where we have the M803AT and 9.5D. Store 1 did not transfer it, but Store 2 received it. So we're going to click on Reconcile. So again, you have three different ways that you can do it. There's the reduce received, that it's a receiving error. If that was the case, you'd set the received quantity to 0. It would increase Store 2's in transit by 1 and decrease Store 2's on hand by 1. So I'm saying when I received the transfer, I received it in, but really it wasn't supposed to happen at all. I shouldn't have received it. So I would choose that option if that was the case. If it was a shipping error, we would choose increase transferred, showing that it was a shipping error. And that would set the transferred quantity to 1. It would increase Store 2's in transit by 1 and decrease Store 1's on hand by 1. Basically, it's saying when it wasn't transferred at all, and it should have been. So we need to fix this by a shipping error. It should have been transferred from Store 1. It was in Store 1's inventory. It should have been transferred out like it was received into Store 2. So we would choose the increase transferred shipping error. And the last option is increase transferred miraculous multiplication. If you choose this option, it would set the transferred quantity to 1, increase Store 2's in transit by 1, decrease Store 1's on hand by 1, and expand Store 1's on hand by 1. Basically, it's saying that Store 2 did the right thing. It received it. So we're going to keep that the way it is, having the 1 9.5D received in Store 2, but Store 1 never had it in its inventory to transfer in the first place, so we have to fix that. So it would truly make the transfer, but keep that inventory all correct. In this example, I'm going to choose increase transferred. I'm going to say that it was a shipping error, that they had it in inventory and they should have transferred it. Then I'm going to click on the Reconcile button. And now everything from this order has been reconciled. And that is how you reconcile transfers.